Hello everyone, I'm NTom64.
And I'm THD.
And I'm X-Gamer Richie.
And welcome to the HellfireComms playthrough of Banjo-Kazooie. Got her, and now we've got the fun out of the way, let's get serious. This is legitimately on my top 10. I know that top 10 changes every other month, but this one is static. It always stays there. Banjo-Kazooie came out in '98, and it's one of the best 3D platformers of all time. I would go into gushing about it, but I think my co-commentators want to properly introduce themselves. So, THD, your history of Banjo, if any.
Oh, I really wish you didn't start with me, because I ain't got fucking shit for this. I know a lot of people have had, nostalgic love for Banjo-Kazooie, and from what I've seen, I understand why. Definitely, it's a huge game, there's lots of stuff to do, lots of stuff to collect, things like that, memorable characters, okay. I get that, but at the same time, I can't help you because I never had an N64, I never played this. I really think I ought to get around to playing this sometime. I guess we'll watch it now. And I kind of did wish I had that childhood experience to kind of, indulge in games like these back when the mascot platformer was a big thing.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Richard?
Yeah, I am equally uneducated in the realm of Banjo-Kazooie. Basically, obviously, I was quite young when this game came out, so I never had an N64 either, just because, I was like 4 at the time. So it's
no
just
excuse.
I was too young, and the first console, home console I got was a GameCube. Might have been a PS2, but that was the era where I started to start gaming.
That's so weird to me, no offense to you, right?
And yeah, the thing is, it's just the way it happens. I was just born in the middle of the 90s, so that's just the way it went, really. But I have watched a race of Banjo-Kazooie. I may have watched somebody do commentary on it, but I really cannot remember. So I know what goes on, it's just that I have absolutely no experience with the game other than 2 minutes playing it at the National Video Game Arcade in Nottingham.
Alright, fair enough. Oh, just before we get off the screen, I love that even at the start of the game there's fun Easter eggs. Sometimes it will happen, sometimes it won't, but the first save slot, Banjo will sometimes be thrown out of the window, his bed will just rear up. The second one, where he's cooking dinner, the wall will swivel and toss him out of the house. And then the last one where he's obviously playing the Game Boy, I don't know if they changed that for the Xbox Live version or not, but he just gets tossed out of the ceiling of his house, which is pretty funny. But Banjo-Kazooie, this is the story of a bear, it's the story of a bird, it's the story of a witch, the story of a smaller bear, the story of a mole, story of
Are you telling us about the bears and the birds, Tom? Because I think I already know how that works.
Well, mostly it's about collecting golden trinkets, and there will be a lot of them you'll be seeing throughout the course of this game. Not as many as in the sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, but there's a fair amount here. I'm going to try and complete each level as quick as possible. I wouldn't really call it a speedrun, because every Banjo speedrun I've seen has been about 4 hours or so. The best I've managed is... This one was about 5 hours. I can speedrun it in about 6. Make of that what you will.
Gotta say, though, even though I have mentioned, I don't have a lot of Banjo-Kazooie experience, I still am familiar with, how games were back then, and I always loved, the blocky graphics they had to do with at the time on the N64 and PS1, so seeing these kind of graphics in play really takes me back.
You gotta know about Gruntilda, at least. Gruntilda the Witch, she rhymes all the time?
I know about her, and now, obviously, the JonTron review of Nuts and Bolts is coming to mind. Banjo-Kazooie has had a hard life recently, but hopefully that will turn around down the line.
Don't know whether that's quite going to happen, considering the key talent behind Banjo is now part of Playtonic Games, and they're obviously making Ukulele, which looks like it's going to be glorious, but I suspect Banjo may be a bit dead as a franchise at the moment.
Bottles there will be teaching us all the moves we'll need to get through the worlds of the game. 2D here is Banjo's sister. She's basically the MacGuffin we're going to be searching for. That's about it. She has no other presence in the series at all, apart from minor cameos here and there.
Who wins in a fight, Tootie or Coco from Crash Bandicoot in terms of sisters?
Probably Coco, to be honest, because she actually is playable in one of the sequels at some point, and so I think that gives her a massive one-up on Tootie here.
Man, you were right, Helldragon. I missed the platforming mascot era. I mean, which guys are still going? It's basically just Mario and Sonic at this point.
And, well, Sonic, as we all know, he has to keep going, because if he stops, he'll basically fall over and drop dead. He's kind of like a shark on land in that regard.
I mean, Kirby's still just about alive in some form, and yeah, that probably is about it, to be honest.
Is Star Fox consider a mascot? Because he sure ain't having good days these days.
Oh, that picture there is, I believe, from an unused area in the game called Fungus Forest. There's a ton of, unused stuff in basically every rare game to date, really. So get ready for me dropping some facts during the training portion of Spiral Mountain. That's the hub area here. You will learn a thing or two.
Was Banjo actually so cheap he couldn't get Kazooie a proper cage? No, you get to sleep in the backpack. Does she even have legs?
Just curled up really tightly, I believe. I've seen star wipes. I've never seen iris out in the shape of a witch's head.
Well, I mean, it's the Batman kind of white. Well, Batman transition, I guess, is probably more accurate, because got it just going with the silhouette in and out, basically.
Just all the animal talk, really. I'm going to get all my gushing out of the way. I can do proper commentary later. I love Kazooie. She's such a sarcastic little tart. It's great.
Banjo always sounds like he's chugging down something whenever he talks. Chug,
yeah.
go.
Kazooie is a Breagle, just in case you're wondering what type of bird she was.
I'm sorry, you just made that up, right?
Yeah, got it right here. Lists of bird names I could use in commentaries.
Well, gosh, now I'm really questioning the wisdom of Banjo building his house right next to the witch's lair. I never saw this coming.
It's a nice set piece to have. It's not like Gruntilda comes out every other day to steal sisters.
Although knowing Grunty, she probably would if she could.
Yeah. What's cool here is, and kind of ahead of its time, really, it allows you to skip the tutorial. Like, if you press B, Kazooie will butt in and say, "No, thanks, Bottles. We've kind of got everything we need to, so just let us go." But if you choose to, you can go around, talk to Bottles by pressing B by his molehills, and you can learn a little something.
From what little I know, again, of Banjo-Kazooie, doesn't everybody, hate Bottles or something? They, got on their nerves or something, so they, kill him in the second game? I don't know what happens.
Yeah, Bottles, well, thanks for spoiling, I guess. Bottles gets fucking killed at the start of Banjo-Tooie.
Well, that's not really much of a spoiler then, is it?
No, Grunty literally comes out and blows up Banjo's house.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I suppose I should get into the origins of Banjo-Kazooie, and we're going to go back a ways. We're going to go all the way back to 1994. And I'm going to talk about Project Dream. Don't worry, we're just going to be literally running about and learning, new moves and such. Project Dream started life in 1994 as a potential seafaring RPG for the Super Nintendo. It was going to be Rare's big thing for the console, with them wanting it to be their masterpiece, or similar words to that effect. And it used advanced computer modelling, whatever that is, but it's like the same type of technique of bit mapping pre-rendered graphics that Donkey Kong Country also used. But Grant Kirkhope, who is the composer of the Banjo games, great lad, extremely talented, he does a few of the voices for the characters in this game as well. He described Project Dream as being like a step above those games, and it was so beautiful he was blown away. Don't worry, I'll eventually stop talking so you two can butt in. Eventually, as is the case with a lot of ambitious projects, it had to be moved to more powerful hardware, as it was just obvious it wasn't going to work on the Super Nintendo, it has limits and whatnot. So off to the 64DD it went, which is, that weird add-on for the N64. Now, instead of a seafaring RPG, it was intended to be a proper 3D RPG, similar in style to Ocarina of Time, which was first shown off at Space World in 1995. Dream would use a unique method of making 3D terrains with large environments created by stretching out polygons. I can't really even imagine that, but we've come so far since that point, I guess it's a kind of moot. Still talking, don't worry, I'm coming to the end now. Of course, the inevitable happened. This was Still too ambitious, and the 64DD just could not keep the frame rate stable when it came to dealing with this new method of world creation. Time marched on, and Rare, never one to let a good thing die, took inspiration from 12 Tales Conquer 64, created by the team behind Killer Instinct, who would later retool 12 Tales into the more adult-orientated Conquer's Bad Fur Day, and pooled all their resources and knowledge of platforming games into remaking Dream and creating a new game for the N64, a 3D platformer in the same vein of Super Mario 64, albeit with a few of the scrapped RPG elements. Still almost done, don't worry, last paragraph now. After coming to the conclusion, wow, this is the most I've ever talked in a playthrough, that the protagonist of their new game, a human boy named Edison, was too generic, they decided to experiment with different animal concepts, with a lot of them previously having been secondary characters. Among these were a dopey dog, a rabbit that looked like a man, and a bear. This bear would eventually become what we know today as Banjo. Sadly though, Dream was eventually scrapped and Banjo-Kazooie was born. And this is completely off notes, this is just like a personal thing from me. The first time I saw Banjo was in 1997 in Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh yeah, I remember they did a crossover with that game.
It's not so much a crossover as like the first time I guess Banjo was shown off to the public, and you had Tip Top, who was also, I believe, a secondary character in Project Dream or something to that effect. He's in this game as well, and stuff like that.
Is that the turtle that whenever you ram into the wall in Diddy Kong Racing, he's like, ow!
Whoa!
Although you were talking about Rabbit Man back there, and I'm sitting there going, now I kind of want to see what Rabbit Man looks like. Because if it was like a weird Japanese Rabbit Man, that's kind of the first image that pops into my mind. Just like a Japanese celery man with like, bunny ears, and he looks very serious all the time.
I was taken back to Feel, which I believe was the prototype for Rystar.
Oh, yeah, I can kind of see where you get that, yeah.
Now, of course, you're a bear, you gotta be able to climb trees, and trust me when I say, I don't know this from first-hand experience, but from everything I've gathered, bears can climb pretty fucking quickly, so don't piss one off.
Now, something that I kind of want to pull out of that massive long history lesson that you gave us was that the seafaring nature of what Project Dream was. I find that really fascinating considering what Rare's next project is, because it's Sea of Thieves and it's pirates and seafaring, and I'm pretty sure it has got RPG elements, so in a way they've almost come full circle, really, and
yeah.
Maybe Sea of Thieves will be Rare's magnum opus return to kind of proper mainstream action games, almost.
I really don't want to be cynical, but I'm going to be. I'm more looking forward to Yooka-Laylee. I didn't have a chance to back it, unfortunately, because my money was tied in other areas, but I'm definitely going to pick it up upon release, because I'm ready for a bit more 3D platforming, I think, and A Hat in Time also looks pretty good, but I haven't been following that as much as I have Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, like, based on the whole Banjo business and seeing, like, Yooka-Laylee, I'm actually really interested in possibly giving that a chance to play. Now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to put it on, like, my Wii U, because I only got so much limited space and I kind of need that for Smash, but they put out, like, if they ever somehow make, like, a physical disc available, I'm fucking there. Like, I will actually sit down and play that game. It looks really interesting.
Okay, so we've covered jumping, we've covered swimming, we've covered climbing a tree, we've covered the beak barge, which is pretty useful, but now we're going to learn a little bit of standard combat. Banjo is going to go first, and honestly, I find his swipe attack a bit pitiful, but I'll let you see for yourself, and you can judge.
I never really found, like, attacks in, like, the 3D platformers reliable. Like, I think my favorite was the spin in Super Mario Galaxy, because it hits all around you and it's a lot easier to aim, I think.
It feels really satisfying as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just knock a fucking, like, Koopa or Goomba out. That feels really good.
Well, I think the other thing with the spin that helped was that, obviously, if you jumped into the air and span, then you could home in with your ground pound, so it was a very helpful multifunctional tool, whereas like the combat in Super Mario 64 was, because of the depth perception issues, it was a little bit clunky.
Yeah, I never really liked jumping on enemies in 3D. That's why I tend to, prefer to have an attack overall than like the newer Mario games where for some reason he can't do that anymore. I'm like, it's just so awkward to aim.
I love how Banjo has kind of a spin attack now. Well, it's more of a forward roll, really. I'm kind of splitting hairs.
I mean, Donkey Kong was able to do that in, Donkey Kong Country. Makes sense, they would add it back.
This is the move I'm going to be using, like, for the majority of the playthrough, because it gets you a little bit off the ground, and you're basically targeting the enemy's head, so there's no, collision issues, and perfect for taking out things that fly as well, and we'll be seeing a lot of those annoying kind of insect characters.
Fighting all of these polygon vegetables is reminding me of another obscure mascot game I remember reading about called Tonic Trouble, where I think you fight, carrots. I know you fight carrots in that game. It's just weird.
I remember reading about that in the Nintendo official magazine, or official Nintendo magazine. It'll be one of the two. They switch names every so often. Looked a bit Rayman-esque, I gotta say.
Yeah, because, the guy, he had, no arms or legs, but then he could, beef up if he took the right kind of potion, I think.
Now, if you collect, as we saw there, even the fucking health talks in this game. If you collect 6 empty, honeycomb segments, you can get a new bit onto your health bar, which is very satisfying. I'm going to be using that word a lot throughout the game, because once again, legitimately on my top 10. If you do tell Bottles to go stuff it, you can just run right up to the top of Spider-Man and start the game right away. And I think that's the right way to do tutorials. Do you want to learn about this, or do you just want to get stuck in? Because he gives you your moves. He won't tell you how to use them, but you have them all, after you say no to him. So you can just kind of experiment.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I think with Banjo in particular, they definitely needed the tutorial there for anybody who played it the first time, because, when I tried to pick it up myself for, the 5 minutes that I did play it, I got very confused. It's partly because holding the N64 controller was, the weirdest experience I've ever had.
Yeah, you need, 3 arms for that shit.
Yeah, so it was kind of trying to figure that out, and because of how the whoever had played it before me had gotten, there was no tutorial, so I was kind of just faffing about trying to figure out what the hell I was doing and where I was going, and it was a bit of a mess, really.
Just in case you two didn't catch it at the beginning, Gruntilda stole Tooty because she wants Tooty's beauty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little weird.
Now, if you fail the game, the inevitable happens. If you get a game over, I think I'll be showing that off in the extras, but
you better do.
Don't expect to see me die at all.
Also, if you just turn off the game and go back to the main menu, they show you that ending anyway, didn't they? Even though you didn't do anything wrong, which I always thought was weird.
Oh, I love that. A picture of Gruntilda the very second you get into her lair, the very first thing you see. I don't know, it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game, really. Jiggies are omni-important. You're going to need these to unlock more worlds, kind of like stars in Mario 64.
And then Kazooie just eats it, which is very selfish of her, I have to admit.
So wait, is Kazooie's stomach the hammer space for Banjo and Kazooie?
Basically, mate. She spends most of the game just napping in there. She may as well do something useful.
It's true. It's very true.
Now, as you can probably tell by that derpy-ass portrait there, I am indeed emulating Banjo-Kazooie, and not really in a way I'd prefer to, or a way I'd usually do. I actually had to use a really old version of this particular emulator, mostly because newer ones were giving me sound issues, combined with a plugin that I had to use to get rid of certain graphical errors. But since it was an old emulator, it introduced new graphical errors, such as texture popping and flat lighting. And I'll just say, you're in no way obligated to support us whatsoever, but I would ask for a little bit of understanding. I know it's going to be a little bit prevalent as the game goes on and the levels get more complicated. I really apologise in advance. We are super busy at this time of year, and I tested for what felt like days, and this was the best compromise, so I'm really, really sorry. I just wanted to cover Banjo for my birthday month. Okay, that will just about bring us to the end of the first part of Banjo-Kazooie. Unfortunately, no air horns. If you want that, you can go watch the Banjo-Smoothies stream. An extremely good run from the Nintendo phone, but as for us, we'll see you next time when we take on the first world of the game.